We are here talking track with myself, and a special guest we have on the show is Miss Gina Chiaramonte. She is one of the greatest photographers that has walked this planet, and she's going to tell you exactly why. So Gina, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, hanging in there.
So I guess let's just get started with what is your athletic background when it comes to sports, track and field? Talk about those things for us.
I did track and field in high school. Started actually in 8th grade, but did it through high school, varsity, all 4 years, track and cross country. So I was more of a distance runner, distance and jumping, yeah. So.
Okay, so talk about your jumping events. What was your specialty?
Oh my gosh. Well, back then they didn't separate it. So distance typically doesn't do jumps, but I was a high jumper and a hurdler and distance. So, yeah.
Okay. And so did you continue with sports into college, or was it just kind of a high school thing?
Just a high school thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And now, obviously, you are a very well-known photographer. You've done many shoots for LA Times and other agencies of higher end. How did you get into photography? Was it from high school, or was it something after your career?
Photography in general, I was 16 when I started shooting in high school, and then I started shooting as a professional sports photographer at 18. So 18 to like 21, I shot for a United Press International. How
was photography, and specifically sports photography, then compared to now?
Well, back when I started, it was looked upon more as a hobby, not really a career. And there really wasn't any women in the business. I was one of the first women photographers, definitely one of the first women in sports. So down on the field, it was, I was also one of the first women to go in the locker room, you know, on the football games. So that was kind of interesting, yeah.
So how did you navigate that? Because I mean, you know, you're into a male-dominated sport for the most part. You go into a male locker room, and how did they receive a woman in the locker room professional?
I don't think they really liked it, you know, but they had the option to cover. They had plenty of time. They gave them a period of time to cover up if you didn't like it. So, yeah, it was definitely interesting. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. But no, I shot professional sports, loved it, kind of left around 21 and then started my own business and started doing weddings and children and events. And now I'm, let's see, going on 35 years. Hold on, is it 35 years? Well, whatever, 35 years doing in photography. I think 32 in business, 33 in business.
What has been the most memorable images you have?
Well, ones that got published were, I was in the locker room for a Pistons game, Lakers Pistons, that one got published. And then a shot of Marcus Allen rushing, going over, that one got published. Just, you know, a few things like that were pretty exciting. But I also was hired by the athletes on the sidelines to photograph. They would pay me, you know, to just kind of get pictures of them. And then all the celebrities on the sidelines. That was kind of fun. A lot of parties, a lot of fun things when I was young. Wayne Gretzky, that was a good memory at all the Raider games. He would always come. I always hang out with Wayne Gretzky. That was cool. That was fun. Yeah.
And so obviously being the first to do something, you're kind of a trendsetter, right? So who do you think you influenced, and what have you opened doors to for other women in photography?
Well, now the market's flooded. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know who I've influenced. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know particular, but back in the day, it just wasn't heard of women. Like, I wasn't taken seriously. When I would go do jobs or weddings or events, they looked at me and said, "Where's your boss?"
Come on. Let's go! 5 more! 5, 6, 3 more! Come on!
Every rep counts. Train stronger, recover faster with Compex Muscle Stim.
When you're taking pictures, obviously you take thousands of pictures, say for example at a track meet. How do you find that specific one that tells that story of the athlete or the event?
Well, obviously your top athletes. I mean, everyone wants to, or the top marks. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. I mean, like Taylor, like crossing the line and holding her arms out and smiling, you know, something that's just, you know, that moment where, you know, it's exciting. She's having a good time. She's loving the sport. She's enjoying herself. Just, you look for those types of shots and all the detail, everything that goes into the track meet and the coaches talking, all the detail of the day. You know, that's what I'm looking for. Through shooting professional sports, you definitely learn to shoot with both eyes open. So as I'm shooting, I'm also scanning and looking for moments and, you know, interactions and things going on to tell the story. So I definitely shoot with both eyes open. It's a safety thing too. So you don't get, well, doing football or basketball, you can get hit if you don't have your both eyes open. So anyway, that I've taken that skill and I take it to everything that I do. So I'll be shooting and following the play and watching what's going on, but then I'm also watching with the other eye what's going on too, and then I can stop and click, get it, come back.
What do you think are the key elements that are different from a beginner photographer of sporting events and a professional?
I come from the days of film, so it's I learned a different way. I learned to read light by looking at it, not by looking at the back of my camera and say, oh, that's not good. I'm going to shoot it again. I'm going to shoot it again. So I know lighting because back in the day you'd shoot with film and you wouldn't know until you had it processed. So I learned differently. So for me, I'm constantly reading the light. I'm constantly looking at the light. I don't know if kids or people today are taught the same way. You know, I don't know because I haven't done one of, you know, not in school. But so for me, and then, I don't know, I mean, I guess the equipment too, the lenses, depth of field, you know, understanding, you know, your apertures and things like that for action. So anticipating, knowing the sport, definitely knowing the sport that you're shooting because you have to anticipate what they're going to do. So for me, it was easy because I had one kid in track and one kid in baseball, and I shot a lot of both of those, but I know the sport. I know both of them, and I know what everyone's looking for. So that makes it easy. So knowing your field.
Do you think that your skill sets for sports are better because you've been able to capture the expression of weddings, capture the expression of, you know, government officials and things like that to tell that story? Do you think when you put those parts in?
Yes, definitely. Sports definitely taught me how to anticipate what's going on, and knowing, and basically, like you said, we said earlier, was anticipating what's going on and shooting that one shot that tells that story. You know, that one moment where it just kind of sums up the day or the event or whatever's going on. So I'm always looking for that one moment. You just, over time, you get to learn, you know, people's body gestures. You know, when someone hugs somebody, you know, if it's genuine or if they just met each other. Like, you get to know people's, you know, I get to be the fly on the wall. I get to watch people and I get to watch interactions. So, but definitely sports, hands down, has made me a better photographer. You get one shot at it, but like if you're shooting a portrait, you can redo it, but not in sports.
That's a very good point. So as you talk about knowing not only the sport and not only anticipating, you're also speaking about knowing the actual person on the other side of that lens. So when it comes to photography, obviously you need to learn how to take pictures with the camera setting, things like that. But also, is there a value towards understanding just people?
Yes. Yeah. So my thought on that is going back to the market being flooded with 1 million photographers. But what sets somebody aside is the interaction, knowing people, how to work with people, how to bring out the best in people, how to, it comes down to that. So, I mean, you could have the best shot ever of something, let's say a wedding, the best shot. But if the photographer is not personable, or maybe kind of barking orders, or, you know, this, that, and the other, you're going to look at that picture later and it's not going to be as pretty as maybe something. Okay, so how do I explain this? It tarnishes the picture. If somebody isn't good with people, you know, you could look at that picture and you're going to remember, oh gosh, that moment was not a good moment, or I was being screamed at, or he wasn't kind, you know what I mean? Or you look at a so-so picture and go and reflect on that as being the best day ever, because the memories that go with it. So to me, I always keep that in mind whenever I'm shooting, is to try to make it fun and relaxed and bring out people's personality, because it's just as important for their memory when they look at that picture that they enjoyed themselves, not just the beauty of the picture.
Your editing skills when it comes to Photoshop, or the filters, or the way that you present your image, can you lose some of that actual excitement within the picture?
When I shoot it, I see it. I don't do a lot of editing in the background. I'll do color correction, or not sharpening, but like contrast, things like that, color correcting, but I don't really do a lot of, I do it, when I take it, that's what I take. I don't do a lot of manipulation on the picture. Whereas I think a lot of the newer breed of photographers do. They'll take a so-so picture and they'll completely manipulate it in the computer, or the computer. That's not my style.
The editing that you technically would do after, you've done in the beginning, because you've already assessed the lighting, you assessed the environment, and so on.
Yeah, so it's a different, but I come from a different way of learning. I learned to see it first and then shoot it and understand light. Whereas I think today I see people shoot and they're looking at their camera going, oh, I don't want that. And then they keep adjusting the same shot, trying to get what they want. Well, I've already seen it. I already know how to, it's just different. It was taught differently. What
would you say, hands down, is the most memorable one image that comes to mind?
I guess maybe not a particular picture, but one of the things that fulfill me the most is someone who maybe isn't photographed a lot, or who doesn't see themselves as maybe pretty or beautiful. And I show them their pictures, but this is time after, and then they're like, oh my gosh, that's me. And they start to cry, or I captured them in a way that they have never seen themselves. So that over time is what drives me and moves me, is it's, giving someone that gift. What would you tell the you now to the 16-year-old you that was getting into sport photography and starting to get those professional gigs? One of the hardest things that I have to deal with in my business is that it is a business. And it's so easy to perceive it as, oh, she just has a camera, she just clicks a picture. So it's very hard, for friends or, my community, that's always been the hardest thing from the get-go, is to charge people too. You know what I mean? It's like with your business, you've years of schooling and experience and all your, research that you've done in working with athletes, it all, they have to put a price on that. So that's the same thing, that's the hardest thing I think I've had to do with my business, is treat it like a business. So there's certain things that I separate and go, okay, I'm doing this for fun, I'm not charging. And then certain things I have to hold my ground on. So that if I was to go back, I would have, I did a lot for, a lot. I gave it away, which is good and bad, but good because it built my business, but bad you know, because once you do that, then it's like they gauge it from there.
You're a great photographer. All the images that I see, I can see the story specifically through each individual picture, you know, and I think that's a huge thing in a skill set that is not easy to come by, you know, and so I thank you for being a part of that process and inspiring, and hopefully anyone that's watching this will be able to hear what you're actually saying, that it's just not the photography, it's the experience between both people. And essentially, this is your way of spreading love because you're making someone feel better. So I really do appreciate, you know, you sticking with this through all the ups and downs you've probably been through with the business side of it and everything else. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Chiaramonte, thank you so much for being part of the show. It was great to have you on the show and hearing your insight and all the things and great memories you brought to people.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay.